Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. Starting a new role as Group CEO of an international company would be challenging at the best of times. Starting it in the middle of the pandemic was even tougher. Add to that the fact that this company's main business is providing travel insurance and travel assistance, helping people in crisis situations, and it becomes even worse. Cara Morton's a Group CEO of Covermore. Welcome to Fear and Greed.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
You are a sucker for punishment, I think. Nice way to start a job in the middle of a pandemic when you're an insurer.
Yeah, look, it was challenging, but, also it was very exciting, right? I mean, it was challenging from the perspective that when the pandemic started, there were a lot of people that were stuck overseas.
Yeah.
If you can cast your mind back and remember that there were actually cruise ships at one point. We had people that were on cruise ships off South America that we needed to get home, and we had borders closing and airlines were closing down their capacity. So, to begin with, it was very, very challenging. But then, it became exciting because we were able to use the pause in travel to think about, how to reinvent travel and how to reinvent insurance and assistance for the traveller.
Okay, so can you just give me a 101 on Covermore, what you do exactly, how big it is? And I've got to say, Cara, there's no payment in this comment. I want you to know that I always use Covermore, and I have done for about 5 years now.
Oh, thanks for that, Sean. I like to hear those stories. Covermore is a global travel insurance and travel assistance company. So we're based across 5 continents, 17 countries. We have leading positions in the United States, in Argentina, in Ireland, Australia and New Zealand. We employ about 1,500 people. And so we do 2 things. So travel insurance, which obviously you buy and it protects you when you travel, and then travel assistance, which is basically what people use when they're traveling. So if they get into trouble, either be it if they lose a passport, they have lost luggage, or they have a skiing accident, or recently we had someone who got bitten by a scorpion in Hawaii. So, the assistance part of our business looks after you when you're traveling.
Okay, so you mentioned the pandemic. It allowed you, in a sense, to reimagine insurance and the business itself. Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. Like prior to the pandemic, we were quite archaic from a digital perspective. For example, we had no apps. There was nothing that we provided our travellers when they're travelling. So basically, if you took out Covermore travel insurance, what you got was, an email with your policy details attached to that. So you can imagine, if you're trying to find that when you're in trouble, it's a bit challenging.
Yep.
But also what that meant was, you took out travel insurance and then you only used it if you got in trouble. So what we did was think about, okay, how can we provide value for a traveller that goes beyond when they get into trouble? What is something that we could do to provide them with information so they don't necessarily get into trouble? So we created a number of digital assets, which basically enable a traveller now to have an app when they travel, and it gives them up-to-date information around what's happening around the location where they are, be it political events or weather events, COVID-related events. You now have that in your fingertips and you can make better decisions for yourself around what to do.
Okay. How do you provide COVID insurance? So if I went online now, would you be able to provide me with COVID insurance? And just how do you price that?
Yeah, so basically what we're able to do is to provide you insurance. And now this is different in different countries, right? But in Australia right now, what we do is provide you, say you're going to Europe in June, July, you can take out travel insurance today and that will cover you if you get COVID before you need to go, you need to cancel, or it covers you if you get COVID when you're traveling and you need to be hospitalized or whatever, needs to happen with you. So because now we've had time over the last 2 years, and particularly, I guess, over the past 6 months, to be able to understand how COVID, the different permutations of it are moving. And now we had Omicron, which really hit us over Christmas, which was a challenge to watch the impact of that from an insurance perspective. we now feel that we're on top of that, and we can see that the patterns, and our underwriter, Zurich, who assists us here in Australia, has been able, to have a product in the market that covers people for COVID. And in fact, all during, the past 2 years, Covermore's been the only travel insurer who's continued to provide travel insurance for people needing to travel.
Okay, but do you provide travel insurance or COVID insurance for all geographies? You just used Europe as an example. In other hotspots, for example, do you provide COVID insurance in those places?
Yes, we do.
Okay, Cara, so basically it depends on the type of holiday, where people are going, the type of insurance that kicks in really is dependent on a bunch of different factors, be it COVID, be it where people are travelling to, that type of thing.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So, how has COVID changed the way travellers think about insurance? Has it been good for your business? I appreciate it may have been a very difficult couple of years, but going forward, I always take out travel insurance anyway, but my kids who are travelling all of a sudden think about travel insurance, which I'm sure they, as 19-year-olds, they didn't care about that too much previously, but now they're thinking about it. So going forward, could it actually be a good thing for the sector?
I think absolutely. We're already seeing the interest levels, and you talked about your kids. We're already seeing the interest levels in travel insurance spiking. So, for example, calls through to our customer service centre asking a lot of questions. A lot of them are around COVID and what's covered while you're travelling. But also we are seeing higher, what I would call, attachment rates coming through. So, for example, where you book a flight and you get an option of, do you want to add travel insurance on with that? We're seeing that in some of our markets at the moment double from what it was prior to COVID.
Stay with me, Cara. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Cara Morton, Group CEO of Covermore. Okay, I just want to get off the insurance side and onto the assistance side. It must be quite a logistical exercise to provide assistance, be that medical or otherwise, in some of the countries people travel to.
Yeah, it is. So what we do, we have a global network of assistance centres. So they're set up in China, in Malaysia, Australia, Canada, and Argentina, and we're in the process of setting one up in the UK. So we run those 24/7, and we hire security experts and medical experts to basically be the first point of call to deal with issues coming in. And then what we do is we have a global network of providers that we reach out to depending on where the traveller is. So it's a global network of providers that we have done the background checks on to make sure that they will be adequate for a traveller in that area. So be it a hospital network, a doctor network, or security, because we also do a lot of security work. We leverage those providers depending on the country that the traveller's in.
Okay, so you must end up, you mentioned the Scorpion and the Hawaiian traveller. You must end up with some pretty interesting cases and remote cases that you're providing assistance to.
Yes, we do. When you talk back to the your cruise ships, a lot of our cases prior to COVID were on evacuating people off cruise ships that were very ill.
Yep.
We also have a lot of people get themselves into trouble by jumping on the back of a moped or a motorcycle,
Yep.
In Ubud in Bali, for example, or Thailand, and then they are a long way from a hospital that can provide the assistance that they need. And then we need to, evacuate them out there and helicopter them sometimes back to Australia or to major cities. So yes, it is a massive logistical challenge. And you could imagine what that was like in COVID when we still had people traveling, in 2020, 2021. And we had to, do some of these medical evacuations when, borders were closed and it was difficult to get flights, etc.
Cara, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thanks very much, Sean.
That was Cara Morton, Group CEO of Covermore. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.